Hey guys, Morgan the Rebellious Reviewer. We talk about music, books, and movies. And today, we're gonna be playing a game to choose my books. Specifically, chess. So, how this is gonna work is I'm not gonna be playing just one game forever the way some booktubers do. Mainly because I like variety. So, how this is gonna work is I'm gonna keep playing chess until one of the kings gets checkmated, and then I'll move on to a different game. But, for now we're playing chess. And the reason for this is it was inspired by one of my 1,000+ imaginary friends. That's right, I still have imaginary friends at my age. Don't like it? You can go away. But anyway, today's game is inspired by my imaginary friend Frances Coleman. She is from the future. She believes in an obscure political ideology called technopopulism, which basically means that technology is free for everyone to use, and power to the people, of course, hence populism. She's also the daughter of a Canadian politician and a chess champion, so I figured chess was appropriate for her. So, with that out of the way, let's get started with the rules. Basically, I'm just going to use these two 6-sided dice. I don't know if you can see them, but I'm going to use those two. And that'll tell me how many turns I take in this little game of chess here. And just like in regular chess, white always goes first. The chess pieces move the same way they do in regular chess. And basically, the types of pieces each correspond to a genre. Now, the genres are also inspired by my imaginary friend Frances, because she'll read anything aside from romance, but I have a clever little trick for how to squeeze some romance into this. See, the pawns equal fantasy, so I guess that means I can pick a fantasy romance if I want. The knights equal sci-fi. The rooks are horror, thriller, or mystery. The king is non-fiction, the queen is contemporary or literary fiction, and the bishop is historical fiction and classics. Yeah. And then there are the colors. When I move a white one, I have to pick a physical book, and when I move a black one, I have to pick an ebook or audiobook. And as for knocking pieces out, if a white piece gets knocked out, I have to pick 2 books. And one will be physical and one will be ebook or audiobook. But if I knock a black piece out, I get to subtract a book. So it's basically like a free turn. And I'll have one less book than the amount I rolled on these dice. So, I think that's everything. So without further ado, let's roll these dice. 9. Okay. We have 9, so we're going to do 9 turns. And I think for starters, I'm gonna move this white pawn here 2 spaces ahead. So, that means I need a fantasy that is also a physical book. Let's see if I can find a good one for this. Okay. So, for my first book, I'm gonna pick a middle grade fantasy. And that's gonna be The Fire Within by Krista Lacey. This is a book that I absolutely loved when I was in, like, 8th grade, I think. It's basically about a bunch of clay dragons that come to life. That's about as much as I remember. But let me just read the synopsis on the back. The magical power of dragons. David ran a hand through his mop of brown hair. Dragons. It was certainly different from his last set of lodgings, where all you got were spiders and the occasional mouse. It's perfect, he said. When David arrives at Wayward Crescent, he has no idea what lurks inside the Penny Kettle house. Only when he's given his own special dragon does he begin to unlock their mysterious secrets and to discover the fire within. Yup, that's our first book. Now, we're gonna move a black piece. And I think I'm gonna move another pawn for the sake of strategicness. And now we need a fantasy or magical realism. Magical realism also counts for this. Ebook or audiobook. So for a fantasy ebook or audiobook, I'm going to mix it up and throw on a fantasy romance. I'm going to be reading Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maurer, I think is how you say that. This is about, from what I've heard at least, a woman who becomes an assistant to a villain and ends up falling in love with him. I hear there's a lot of humor in it. Sounds interesting. So, let's move a white piece. And I think this time I'm going to move a knight, just for the sake of variety. Okay, so for this we need a sci-fi physical book. And I know what I'm picking for this. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is actually a book that is a giant metaphor for class conflict, from what I've heard. Yeah, it says here, his wife is taken, his people enslaved. Driven by a longing for justice and the memory of lost love, Darrow will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if he must become one of them to do so. So yeah, this sounds really interesting. And it's book 1 in a trilogy. So, now, let's move another black piece. Okay, we moved another pawn, so we're going to need another fantasy or magical realism ebook/audiobook. Okay, so for our 4th turn, we needed a fantasy or magical realism ebook or audiobook. Now for this, I'm going to go with a magical realism one, and it's going to be... Who was the author again? Hang on, let me pull that page back up. Shark Art by Emily Hayback. This is about a woman whose husband turns into a great white shark. Yeah, that sounds like something Franz Kafka would write, except it's modern? Yeah. That sounds fascinating to me, and I have a feeling it's going to have some interesting themes as well, considering it also falls under literary fiction, I think. So, this should be fascinating. Now to move a white piece. I think I'm just gonna move this pawn here. Okay, so for this I'm gonna need another fantasy or magical realism physical book, so let me go find one. Okay, for turn number 5, we got another fantasy or magical realism physical book, and for this I'm going with the Library of the Unwritten by A.J. Hackwith. I'm just going to read the synopsis off the back. Many years ago, Claire was named head librarian of the Unwritten Wing, a neutral space in hell where all the stories unfinished by their authors reside. Her job consists mainly of repairing and organizing books, but also of keeping an eye on restless stories that risk materializing as characters and escaping the library. When a hero escapes from his book and goes in search of its author, Claire must track and capture him with the help of a former muse and current assistant Brevity, and the nervous and sweet demon Leto. But what should have been a simple retrieval goes horrifyingly wrong when the terrifying angel Remiel attacks them, convinced that they hold the Devil's Bible. The text of the Devil's Bible is a weapon in the power struggle between heaven and hell. So it falls to the librarians to find a book with the ability to reshape the boundaries between heaven, hell, and earth. Wow! That is a fascinating premise that I think a lot of conservative Christians would be really annoyed at. Like, it's painting the hell people as the good guys, but I approve of it, so yeah, let's move another black piece, shall we? This is turn number 6. Yeah, I'm gonna move this knight. Okay. So for number 6, we got an ebook or audiobook that is sci-fi. So, let's look into that. Okay. So for a sci-fi ebook or audiobook, I'm gonna cheat and put a sci-fi romance on here. Ice Planet Barbarians. This is a series that that a lot of people like, but I've always been kind of nervous about, but also intrigued by, because, well, it looks really goofy, the covers are ridiculous looking, and it's about women getting kidnapped and having sex with blue aliens, for God's sake. But I'm also intrigued because a lot of people like it, so we'll see what I think. So, yeah, that's gonna be my number 6 pick. So, let's move a white piece now. I'm gonna move this pawn right here. So for this, I'm gonna need a physical book that is a fantasy or magical realism again. Yeah. I think this time I'm gonna try going with an epic one, because I haven't done one of those yet. Actually, on second thought, I think I'm gonna go with this young adult, kind of silk punk, as it's called, fantasy. This is Of Jade and Dragons by Amber Chin, and yeah, I have the gorgeous Illumicrate edition here. And this falls into a subgenre of fantasy called silk punk, basically the Chinese version of steampunk. And yeah, let's see what the synopsis says. 18-year-old, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name, dreams of becoming a world-class engineer like her father. But after his unexpected murder, a heartbroken Ying is determined to discover why anyone would threaten a man who ultimately chose a quiet life over fame and fortune. Left with only a journal of her father's engineering secrets and a jade pendant snatched from the assassin, Ying follows the trail to the capital and the prestigious Engineers Guild, a place that harbors her father's hidden past. Disguised as her brother, Ying manages to infiltrate the male-only apprenticeship trial with the help of an unlikely ally. Again, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. The nation's taciturn eighth prince. With her father's renown placing a target firmly on her back, Ying must stay one step ahead of her fellow competitors, the jealous guild masters and the killer still hunting for her father's journal. Complicating everything is her increasingly tangled relationship with the prince, who has mysterious plans of his own. The secrets hidden within the guild can be as deadly as the weapons they build. And with her life and the country's future at stake, Ying doesn't know who to trust. And can she avenge her father if it means going against everything he stood for? That sounds interesting, actually. I look forward to reading one of my special editions here. So, that is turn number 7, only 2 more to go. And for this one, we're going to have to move a black piece. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna move that black pawn, meaning time for another fantasy or magical realism audiobook. And this time I'm picking Game of Thrones. Now, I do own this book physically, but it's also really damn long. Meaning I'd rather listen to it in audiobook form because I think it would go faster. So, yeah. I think you all know what Game of Thrones is about. Yeah, it was turned into the popular TV show along with the rest of the books in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. So, yeah. And then we're on the final roll of this game, so we're gonna move a white piece and see what happens. And for this, I think I'm gonna do something a bit different. We have a ton of fantasy and sci-fi. Granted, I varied it up as much as I could, but still. I'm gonna move this rook a few places because I'd like to get some horror, thriller, or mystery on here. So yeah, I'm gonna go find a horror, thriller, or mystery. Okay, so for our horror, thriller, mystery pick, I'm gonna go with Still Life by Louise Penny. This is actually my grandma's book. I'm borrowing it from her. And I should probably get it read, considering I've had it for way too long at this point. But this is the first book in Louise Penny's Chief Inspector Armand Gamache series, and I'm probably butchering that name, but I'm just going to read the synopsis. Chief Inspector Armand Gamache and his team of investigators are called to the scene of a suspicious death in a rural village south of Montreal, and yet a world away, Jane Neal, a local fixture of the tiny hamlet of Three Pines, has been found dead in the woods on Thanksgiving morning. The locals are certain it's a tragic hunting accident and nothing more, but Gamache smells something foul this holiday season. With this award-winning debut novel, Louise Penny introduces the wise and engaging Armand Gamache, who commands his forces and this series with integrity, strength, and charm. Sounds good. So, this is our stack of physical books, plus Assistant to the Villain, plus Sharkheart, plus Ice Planet Barbarians, plus Game of Thrones. That sounds interesting, actually. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to this, and also, there's a couple other books I need to read. Hang on. This is another book I'm borrowing. I'm actually borrowing this one from my aunt, and this one is another one I've held on to for way too long. I'm probably gonna half audiobook, half physical book this one because, come on. Yeah. It's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. It's basically a book about trauma, which, as someone with a trauma disorder, I appreciate. And then, the other one is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. This is going to be a reread for me, but I am planning on doing a video in December about the Twisted series. So, I'm reading one of them a month until December. So, Twisted Love, it is. This is kind of a dark romance about this grumpy guy with a heart of ice, doesn't care about anyone, but then he falls in love with a girl who is all happiness and sunshine. And there's some darker themes, of course, being a dark romance. So yeah. And those are all the books I have to read. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm Morgan the Rebellious Reviewer, and I'm out.